everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling something pretty amazing, neuroplasticity and motivation.
We'll be looking at two articles, one that really dives into neuroplasticity and how it helps us reach our potential.
And the other one goes deep on the psychology of motivation, so.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that both of these articles give us a ton of practical stuff we can use in our own lives, right?
So get this. Our brains are not static. They can actually rewire themselves. It's called neuroplasticity.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. And we're going to be talking about how it impacts everything from learning new things to bouncing back from setbacks and even maybe unlocking some hidden potential.
And that's where these articles come in with, like I said, real strategies we can all use, right?
Okay, so let's get started. What exactly is neuroplasticity?
Well, it's basically our brain's ability to modify its connections. It's neural connections based on our experiences and what we learn. And the amazing part is it happens throughout our whole lives.
So it's not like our brains just stop changing at a certain age.
Not at all. It's constantly evolving, which is pretty empowering when you think about it. We have the power to change and improve our brains no matter how old we are.
That's amazing. But how does it actually work? What's happening, at the cellular level?
Well, the first article talks about four main mechanisms that drive neuroplasticity. The first is synaptogenesis, which is basically creating new connections between neurons. Think of it like building new pathways in your brain.
Oh, wow. So every time we learn something new, we're actually creating new physical connections.
Yep. And then there's synaptic plasticity, which is all about strengthening or weakening the connections that are already there based on how much we use them. It's kind of like if you're hiking through a forest,
Right. The more you walk a certain path, the easier it becomes.
Exactly. But if you don't use it, it gets overgrown. So you can see how this applies to our daily habits, like how much time we spend scrolling on social media. It might seem passive, but it's actually shaping our brains by strengthening certain pathways.
It makes you think twice about what you're doing online, huh?
For sure. And then there's synaptic pruning, which is kind of like our brain's way of decluttering. It gets rid of the unused connections to keep things running smoothly.
So it's like our brains have a built-in cleaning system.
Yeah. And finally, there's the brain's ability to adapt after an injury. It can actually reorganize itself, which is pretty remarkable.
That is incredible. So our brains are always adapting.
Yeah.
But how can we use this to our advantage? How can we actually, shape our brains for the better?
Well, that's where mindfulness comes in.
Okay, mindfulness. I have to admit, I sometimes picture like people sitting and meditating, but I'm guessing it's a bit more accessible than that, right?
Absolutely. It's basically just about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
Yeah.
And the research actually shows that it can really strengthen specific neural connections, especially the ones related to our emotions and our attention.
So it's like a mental workout for our brains.
You could say that. And the best part is it's super easy to incorporate into our daily routines.
Okay, give me some examples because I need this.
Well, for one, just taking like 2 minutes to breathe deeply when you wake up can really help reduce stress and improve focus throughout your day.
2 minutes, I can do that. What else?
Another thing is managing those digital distractions. Before checking emails or social media, just take a second to think about what you really want to accomplish that day.
Oh, that's a good one. I definitely get sucked into those notifications way too easily.
We all do. And then there's creating a relaxing evening routine to help you sleep better. Maybe take a warm bath, read a book, listen to some calming music. The key is to disconnect from those screens and give your brain a chance to actually unwind.
So instead of ending the day with our phones, we should opt for something calmer.
Exactly. These simple habits can actually help rewire your brain to be calmer, more focused, and more resilient overall.
Wow, so we're not just talking about feeling good in the moment, we're actually changing the structure and function of our brains.
It really is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But to really unlock the power of neuroplasticity, we got to push ourselves beyond those comfort zones.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What does that mean exactly?
Well, our brains love routine, but change is essential to keep them sharp. It's like a workout for your brain.
So we need to mix things up and challenge ourselves with new experiences.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where things get really interesting. It helps maintain that cognitive flexibility and prevents us from, kind of declining mentally.
So instead of sticking to those same old routines, we got to shake things up and forge some new neural pathways.
Right. And the article actually gives us some fun ways to do this, like cognitive exercises.
Oh, like brain training apps and puzzles. I love those.
Yeah, exactly. And learning a new skill is another great way to boost neuroplasticity, like learning a new language or picking up an instrument. Anything that pushes you out of that comfort zone.
I've always wanted to learn to play the piano. Maybe this is the time.
There you go. It's never too late.
I love that. So we have all this potential just waiting to be unlocked.
We do. And even simple things like practicing gratitude can help. The article talks about taking a few minutes each day to write down, 3 positive things.
That's interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it can actually rewire your brain to see change as a good thing.
So instead of fearing change, we can embrace it.
Exactly. And even just exploring new environments can help, like traveling or even just trying new recipes.
So basically anything that gets us out of our routine.
Yep. It's all about keeping our brains active and engaged.
This is so cool. So change is actually good for our brains.
It is. And this brings us to another important topic, motivation.
Ah, motivation. That thing that we all need but sometimes struggle with. Why is it that some days we're super productive and other days we can barely get off the couch? What's the secret to staying motivated?
Well, the second article really digs into this.
Hmm.
And it starts by explaining that motivation is basically the fuel that drives us towards our goals.
Okay, that makes sense. But what exactly IS motivation? Where does it come from?
It's a pretty complex thing.
Yeah.
But the article breaks it down into 2 main types, intrinsic and extrinsic.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Intrinsic motivation comes from within. It's about doing something because you enjoy it, like a hobby.
So if you love to paint, you're intrinsically motivated to paint, even if you don't sell any of your paintings.
Exactly. It's the joy of the process that matters.
Yeah.
Then there's extrinsic motivation, which is driven by external rewards,
Mm.
like getting a promotion or winning a competition.
So it's about achieving a specific outcome.
Right. So we have both types of motivation in our lives. But ideally, we want to find activities that tap into that intrinsic motivation.
Because that's where the real passion lies, right?
Exactly. And to understand this even better, the article looks at some psychological theories that explain what drives us.
Oh, I love this part. What are some of those theories?
Well, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which says that we need to fulfill our basic needs like food and shelter before we can focus on things like self-actualization.
Right. If you're struggling to survive, you're not going to be worried about pursuing your dreams.
Exactly. Then there's self-determination theory, which focuses on autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
Okay, break those down for me.
Sure, autonomy is about feeling in control of your choices. Competence is about feeling good at what you do, and relatedness is about feeling connected to others.
So to be intrinsically motivated, we need to feel like we're in charge, good at what we do, and part of something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And there's also the expectancy theory, which says we're more motivated when we believe we can actually succeed.
So it's not enough to just want something. We need to believe we can achieve it.
Right. Our beliefs and expectations really matter. But let's get practical. How can we actually cultivate and sustain motivation?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Well, the article gives us some great tips. One is to set SMART goals.
SMART goals. I love a good acronym. What does that stand for?
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
So instead of saying, I want to get in shape, I'd say, I'm going to run a 5K in 3 months by training 3 times a week.
Perfect. The more specific, the better. Then there's finding your why. Why is this goal important to you? What's the deeper purpose?
I like that connecting our goals to something meaningful.
Yeah, it gives you that extra push.
Hmm.
And creating a routine is crucial. Consistency is key.
So like scheduling workouts into my week and treating them as important appointments.
Exactly. Make it a non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
And eliminate those distractions like a messy workspace or a buzzing phone.
Oh man, I need to work on that.
We all do. And don't forget about accountability. Find someone who can support you and keep you on track.
Like a workout buddy or an accountability partner.
Exactly. And finally, reward yourself. Celebrate those milestones, no matter how small.
I love that. Recognizing our progress is so important.
It is. Motivation is a journey, not a destination.
This has been so helpful. But let's be real, we all have those days when we feel unmotivated. What do we do then?
Well, it's normal to have those dips. The key is knowing how to bounce back.
So don't beat yourself up when it happens. Just have a plan.
Right. The article talks about reframing challenges as opportunities.
So instead of seeing setbacks as failures, see them as chances to learn.
Exactly. And break down big tasks into smaller steps.
Because those big goals can be overwhelming.
They can. And surround yourself with positive people who inspire you.
Choose your tribe wisely.
And most importantly, be kind to yourself.
Self-compassion is key.
This deep dive has really shown us that we have the power to shape our brains and our motivation.
It's been so empowering. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of my brain.
Me too. And it's amazing how much control we actually have.
Yeah, seriously. So let's recap some of the key takeaways.
Our brains are incredibly adaptable thanks to neuroplasticity.
And we can influence these changes through our choices and habits.
Simple things like mindfulness and embracing new challenges can make a big difference.
And motivation is something we can cultivate and sustain.
By setting clear goals, finding our why, and building those positive routines.
And even when we feel unmotivated, we have strategies to help us bounce back.
I'm feeling really inspired right now.
Me too.
Oh.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge.
I love that. It's like we've been given this awesome blueprint for like brain optimization, and now it's time to actually start building.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be some big, massive change either. Just
Time.
small, consistent steps that put all these principles into action. So, like, what kind of brain do you want? A more focused brain, a more creative brain.
That's the question, isn't it? What do we
Yeah.
want to build? Maybe it's finally using that mindfulness app you've been thinking about.
Or signing up for that online course. Or even just like setting aside 15 minutes to think about your goals for the week.
Yeah, there are so many possibilities. It just takes that first step.
And like we've been talking about, our brains are wired for growth. So every time we challenge ourselves, we're making those connections stronger.
And with the right motivation, we can achieve anything.
This has been such an amazing conversation. We talk about setting goals for our careers or relationships, but what about goals for our brains?
Ooh, I like that. What would your ideal brain look like a year from now? And what can you do today to start building it?
Like we can train our brains just like we train our bodies.
Exactly. We're not stuck with what we were born with. We can upgrade.
And it's never too late to learn and change.
That's the beauty of it. Every experience shapes our brains. So the more we understand this, the better choices we can make.
So we're not just victims of our circumstances. We have the power to shape our own minds.
That's the power of neuroplasticity and motivation working together.
This has been so eye-opening. I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
There's definitely more to explore. But hopefully you've gained some insights and a sense of hope. Remember, your brain is amazing, and you can shape it for the better.
So embrace new challenges, stay curious, and never stop learning.
And be kind to yourself along the way. Progress takes time.
This has been an incredible journey into the world of our brains. Until next time, happy brain training, everyone.